If you're watching this on the day I uploaded it, it's my birthday. It just seemed very, very appropriate to the series. That's the Lavender we know and love, too exhausted to even go under the covers. Either that or waddling over to the bathroom. Now, I have no sympathy for Sims who experience bladder failure. I'm sorry, but barring a medical issue, normal humans know that when we feel urgency, we need to urinate. It can get tiring babysitting them, especially just because it feels unrealistic for adult Sims to wet themselves constantly. Now, I feel like there's always at least one sim in every household that just like waves and jumps up and down when they need to go to the bathroom until you queue up the toilet for them. And Lavender, despite being the matriarch, is that sim. Okay, if I'm being totally honest, it's really rare for a sim to wet themselves in my played households, but only because I make sure that I queue up a toilet for those sims that don't usually do it on their own. I just happen to know from watching Grace Still Plays videos and playing The Sims, the original Sims as a kid, that a lot of people enjoy making Sims wet themselves. So I guess the difference between a normal human and a Sim, if I'm being fair, is that Sims are controlled by malevolent gods. And we have our first teenager of the challenge. That's right, Guiderius has been aged up to the teenage life stage because he achieved an A in grade school. We are getting so close to successfully raising our first adult. So you guys know that Johnny Zest is Guiderius's father. And Johnny Zest is a disinherited land grab, basically because he wanted to follow his dreams of being a comedian. Nancy disowned him and I guess probably encouraged him to change his name. I mean, she had her husband change his name to hers, so I guess that's how it worked. So yeah, even though we had a baby by the less elitist member of the land grab family, I feel like some sort of the snobbiness is coming through in poor Guiderius's appearance. I'm joking, of course. It's just a coincidence that it's worked out this way. However, I didn't say it before because I thought it was a little harsh, but I honestly thought that Guiderius looked a little bit like Augustus Gloop as a toddler, and now that he's a teen, he kind of looks a little bit like Dudley Dursley. Finding a sire becomes much more viable once all the infants in the house have aged up to the toddler life stage, and that's where Valentine is right now. However, because it's been a lot harder for Lavender to date while she's raising four little sim children on her own, she does not have any prospects yet again, although it is tempting to consider having Santa Claus as a father. This is me going back to the process of looking up and down the road, trying to find our next sire. Uh, Unfortunately, it seems like Lavender has already had a baby by everyone in the neighborhood. I know, and with only four children. I do have a strategy for quickly developing relationships, and for the most part, it's the same in this challenge as it is on my main save. So I start out by doing friendly socials, of course, or else oftentimes the sim will be offended by the romantic advances. And the ones that I mainly focus on are the special interest-based ones that are powered by the sim's current emotions, brightened day, and heartfelt compliment. Once the friendship bar starts to look a little green, I move on to ask if single. I mean, I consider it to be a sort of midway point between the romance socials and the friendly socials. Now, I do have a theory. It's just a theory, but I think that it makes sense. I think that in order to quickly get to the social try for baby, it's best to build the friendship up a little bit more than I normally would if I was having a sim date another sim in my main save. You know how in order to get married, sims have to have a certain amount of friendship even if their romance bar is practically full? I suspect that there might be a similar dynamic in Woohoo versus Try for Baby. Did you notice that Jay aged up in front of our very eyes a second ago? I don't think that Oh my God. I don't think that Lavender did. She seems pretty preoccupied. Can you imagine if this happened in real life? And I don't even mean like how injured you would be. I mean, how does she not have an embarrassed moodlet right now? So, as for what I do once I get past the friendship building socials, we'll get to that another time because Jay right now is experiencing a negative emotion. I'm going to have Lavender quickly try to calm down, but we're going to call him later because I find that trying to build a romantic relationship with a sim who's sad or tense or anything like that is a losing game. Miss Finch has gone home, helped the kids with their homework, put the little ones to bed, and now she is ready to call Jay Huntington III and see what happens. Might be a good idea to clean this up. This bitch in a hurry to get a sim pregnant. After filling up the green bar, I sometimes will go back to friendly socials. I'm going to start with them here since, we haven't seen him for a little bit. The reason I do it that way is that it allows us to find out immediately if the sim is not going to respond to romantic socials well at all, while still B, continuing to grow the friendship bar. If only I had a winning strategy for how to not have sims believe they can just drop garbage anywhere, anytime. So yeah, once I start getting into the romance socials, after ask if single, I start with compliment appearance and then confess attraction. Just makes sense and it's worked out perfectly every time. I love that Kyderius thinks that he is welcome here. Yeah, so once I start getting into the romance socials and don't feel like I need to grow the green bar, I'm going to want to do a whole bunch in a row, escalating if I want to get to first kiss. And of course, we have to do that if we're going to make a baby. I didn't know any lore about J. Huntington III before trying this challenge, but the fact that he had a suffix made me think he must be a pre-made. So I looked it up, and I got this information from the Sims fandom wiki, which I'll link in the description. His household is loosely based on the main characters from the show New Girl. Fandom hesitantly says that he might be based on Schmidt, but I'll go ahead and say it's very obvious from the household image that he's based on Schmidt. Wait, why is there dust? Wait, why is he thinking about wetting his pants? You may be wondering why I give advice to children like, eating dirt is fun. I used to answer requests for advice in parenthood based on what I thought the best advice would be. However, if we're really playing it like a video game, that isn't the way to go. Once a caretaker's parenting skill reaches a certain level, we can see which character traits are raised and lowered by giving a certain answer. Since this challenge is based on efficiency, I focus on building the responsibility trait. As long as we're directing kids to get A's in school, which we are, the responsibility trait practically takes care of itself. That's because doing homework and getting good grades raise responsibility. However, one wrong answer and we can bring a child out of range to earn the responsibility trait. So all my answers prioritize that trait. Incidentally, the other two easiest traits to earn are manners and empathy in that order. I'm sure we'll have occasion to go into that in a later episode. To complete the parenting aspiration, you need to have a kid earn 3 traits. Here's a good example wherein I blame the teacher for Juniper drawing a lewd cartoon. I never thought that I would say this, but in this instance, I'm glad that cars are simply objects that can't be interacted with in The Sims 4. I'll show you why. There it is. I have had a car go through a kid before. It doesn't do anything. I'm doing the absolute final editing, and it took me until now to realize this, but was that his dad who just ran by without caring? I'm using the random trait generator by James Turner to randomize aspirations since we can't do that in game. I'll link it in the description. So Juniper came out delightfully weird. I even like the MAC eyeshadow on her just because it's so ridiculous. I didn't do many changes to her in CAS, especially for that everyday outfit. I just love how strange she looks.